From TDO Studios in Portland, Oregon, welcome to The Dangerous Ones.
The shots been fired, but the war ain't won. These white boys with money better learn how to run. The wall hits your back, the blood's on your tongue. You and me, baby, we're the dangerous ones.
Well, welcome in, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Dangerous Ones podcast. And we have a truly fantastic episode today. I'm super excited about today's episode.
Me too.
Today, we're going to be counting down the top 10 Godfathers of MAGA, the top 10 pieces of shit who set the stage for what is now the Republican Party. In other words, the top 10 people we should be blaming for MAGA.
These assholes.
Yep. And this came to our agenda today because Mitch McConnell retired and might be on the list. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. We don't want to give anything away, but you made a post and you said he has retired. Tell him about the post.
I made a post. I threw it out there. I was like, bye, Mitch. Nobody's going to miss you. And this is all your fault. And you guys jumped in to the comment section and said, yes, but also this person. So
It was
crazy.
Up.
It blew up. So
Wow.
yeah. So we were like, okay, people want to talk about this. So let's make a top 10 list.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about it? Okay.
And it's a bit of a history lesson. And it's also, it will be debated in the tomes of the Dangerous Ones.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever.
Yep.
So we're super excited about that. And we have a guest that is going to be joining us to help us run down the top 10 Godfathers of MAGA. And also, we'll be taking more of your calls to the People's Hotline, which is going to be great. And folks, if you would like to be part of the People's Hotline, you can do so by calling 503-212-4600. Again, that's 503-212-4600. You can leave a message 24/7, and it's always free, and you can remain anonymous. And if calling it is not your thing, you can always email us at shout@thedangerousones.com. That is SHOUT @thedangerousones.com. On my left is the award-winning co-founder of 11 Films and my beautiful wife and best friend, and she doesn't look like she's turning 50 this year at all. Tiffany, the Donald Trump destroyer, Drastic, everybody.
I like it.
Hey, everybody.
I love it.
You guys.
Fantastic. On my right, he runs the largest digital field team in the world as the executive director of Demcast USA. And our dear friend, we're happy to have him back in the studio, Nick Knutson, everybody.
Woo!
Thank you.
Yeah, boy, it's nice to see you again. And I am Jim Drastic, also of 11 Films, and I'm excited to be here for this fantastic episode. Man, they're clicking by. We're up to number 7 now.
I know.
Yeah, this is old hat now. Yeah.
And it is all due to you guys out there, you guys listening to the show. You guys watching the show on YouTube. It has meant so much to us. And again, nobody's getting rich. We're just out here just wanting to make a little bit of a difference and
a little bit of noise.
and provide a little entertainment, fun, and history while we're at it. Yep. So, in the spirit, so this week, Elon Musk put out a thing saying...
My face just, as soon as you say his name, just fell.
Oh my God, I know.
I hate this fucker.
I know. So he put out a call to everybody that's working for, I believe, every federal agency there is, and they had to write a list of what they did last week. So in that spirit...
What am I, 4?
I know. So although we don't work for the federal government, I would like to know what the fuck you guys did last week.
This is what I did. No.
I didn't do shit. I was in California.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Nick, how was your week in California? Did you have any good food?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's great food. I was in Southern California. There's great Mexican. Just tons of great food.
Yeah.
Pizza. And the sun.
Oh my God.
The sun was present. There was like a big glowing orb in the sky.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, for real.
No, come on.
Fantastic. And how was the flights? Everything good? No?
I'll just say, like, I will never take Frontier Airlines again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you, Frontier.
Fuck
yeah.
Hey,
Fuck them.
Fuck them.
What'd they do?
It's just it's a
Yeah.
it's a sardine can. I'm
Oh, yeah.
I'm 6'4",
Yeah.
so and I thought Southwest was squunch,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they take it to a whole nother level.
Is that
Oh,
right?
my
Yeah.
God.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
You
Oh,
better
my
not have
God.
any legs.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't have to say where exactly you went, but was it a direct flight?
yes.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Well, at least,
At least you're
Jesus
only-
Christ.
You know, it's just boom, you're there.
Yeah. I hate
God,
layovers,
I
man.
can't.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more I'm like, no, dude, what?
Yeah.
I can't.
Like I've said on a show already, I'm not a great flyer anyhow. And
Yeah.
so, you get scrunched in there and all that. But this last year, I did more flying than I may have ever done in my entire life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
In 2024.
Mhm.
Hopscotch in the country.
Oh my
know.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were jet setting
Yeah.
like we were actually somebody important. And it was fun. But I having flown that many times, you in a row, you kind of get over it. You're just like, it's whatever's going to happen. I can't control
Right.
anything.
The
Yeah.
least amount of hassle is what I'm
Yes.
out
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Actually, let me tell this really quick story. How I got over my fear of flying.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Listen up, folks. A lot of people have a fear of flying.
Right.
Yeah.
We were going to Hawaii for the first time ever. I'd never been to Hawaii. We have a relative there. And so we were flying out. Tiffany went first. So she went about a week earlier. I went a week later. So I was flying alone to Hawaii. Never been there. It was like a lifelong dream. I get on the plane. We take off from Portland Airport. It's about an hour into the flight. We're over the ocean. We just probably got over the ocean. I don't know if we're a full hour into the flight. And all of a sudden, you hear like
What?
people shuffling to the back of the plane. Oh. And then we hear over the intercom, I'm not making this up. Is there a doctor on board?
No.
Is there a doctor on board? And I'm going, you're kidding me. This is something out of a fucking movie, right?
Oh, wow.
And I don't think a whole lot of it. Everybody's kind of, you're kind of stretching your neck to see if you can see
Yeah.
what's going on, but you can't see what's going on,
Right.
A few minutes later, it comes over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be turning around and heading back to Portland International Airport. We have a medical emergency.
Wow.
And I'm telling you now, because of COVID and all that, that's the first time I had flown. This is last year. That was 2 years ago.
Mhm.
It was the first time I had flown in many years,
Mhm.
like 4 years or something like that, because of COVID. And so I'd psych myself up. I hate flying. I was scared. I was nervous. The sweaty palms and everything. Oh, let's go. We finally get up. Okay, well that wasn't too bad. We get over the ocean. We're like, okay, I'm going to be there soon.
Yeah.
And when they turned that fucking plane around and landed, I said, you know what? It's something in my mind. I changed in that moment. And something in my mind, I said, from here on out, what difference does it make? I can't control anything.
Yeah.
And I stopped being such a terrible, nervous flyer.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a true story. And and then I ended up going the next day to Hawaii and came back with COVID. And
Yeah.
it was like,
Of course.
I know.
Of course.
I had dodged
The
it
universe was like,
successfully.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Tiff
Yeah.
and I had successfully dodged COVID for
Mhm.
3+ years and got it in Hawaii. So, but anyhow, I
Well,
digress.
I mean, I think that's great that you that you had that realization, because literally there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you make a choice to go on a plane, like,
You're fucked either way.
yeah, I mean, it's like, it's out of your hands.
Yeah.
Like, you being super anxious and sweating and like annoying the people around you by like flinching and whatever every
Yeah.
time there's like a tiny bump.
Yeah.
Not going to make a difference.
Not
Yeah.
gonna make a difference.
It's not
and
going to
you
matter.
build up like these horrible scenarios in your mind,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you're actually in a horrible scenario and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's actually not, I can handle it. It's not even
Yeah.
that bad. Like, you build it up. So that's the only place it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not to downplay people's fears.
Not at all.
If you
No.
got a fear, you got a fear, and it's real, and it impacts you. But that's very cool that you
Yeah.
sort of got past
When
it.
you're
Yeah.
confronted with it, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can handle it. I can
Yeah.
handle it,
And one more oddity to that story is in my spare time, I was moonlighting. Tiff and I make book trailers for pretty big authors, actually. And we were making book trailers for T.J. Newman. She's a New York Times bestselling author. And she has written, well, now she's written 3 books. All of them went to the New York Times bestseller list. We've made trailers for all 3 books. And each and every book is about plane crashing.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
And so she had a book come out just a few days before called Drowning, where a plane crashes into the ocean. And so I had been making trailers about a plane crash, like multiple trailers, like 50 of them. And I'm not making that up. I probably made about 50 pieces of content, like 50 different like trailer-esque things for this book. And then I board a plane a few days later, so I got to put all of that out of my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you, it's a scene, man.
And then, like, while we're in Hawaii, like, I have the book on me because it's gonna come out, and so we're filming all of these cool things for, like, social media. I have one chance to get this shot right because I'm gonna film the book on the beach. It's gonna fall over, and the wave's gonna. I have been planning this shot. I've been timing it right. I finally get it all right. There's even like emergency buoys in the back. Like, it's just a chef's kiss of a scene, right?
Yeah.
I get it all set up. The wave is coming. I hit record. It's going. This fucking girl walks right through the shot as soon as the wave hits it. And then she says something to me, and you can still hear it in the video. And it's something like, "What's that book about?" Or, "Did you get the shot?" And I'm just like, that was it. That's the only, I can't re-get the book wet.
Yeah.
I can't like dry out the book and do it again.
Yeah. The book can only get what.
Oh my
it was
God.
like a book beauty shot.
Right.
And this woman.
The entire reason I'm at the beach that day is just to get that
this one shot. Yeah.
Folks, if there's somebody who has a really nice camera and they're pointing it at something, like walk
Just
around.
wait.
Walk behind the camera.
Yeah.
Come on.
No kidding. So anyways, I don't know. We went off on that whole thing, but glad to have you back.
Yep.
And it's nice to see. We felt like our right arm was gone that whole time.
Yeah.
But Tiffany, unfortunately, I know you got to dip out.
I do, dude.
An
I'm really
emergency
sorry.
came up.
Yeah, I'm a sandwich generation, so I have parents and kids, and it's just something I can't get out of.
Yep. So she's got to dip out, but she will be back in time for the People's Hotline here in just a little bit.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and do your thing, and we're going to move on with the top 10 Godfathers of MAGA.
Nice.
So to help us out with our next segment, we are joined by a true powerhouse in political commentary and activism. He's not only the co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, an organization dedicated to advancing democratic principles and countering political corruption, but he's also a fearless journalist who has tirelessly exposed ties between American politics and foreign interference. His work has significantly impacted the political landscape, particularly through his hard-hitting and highly successful Dworkin Report on Substack, and our dear friend, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Dworkin, everybody. Woo, Scott! Hey.
Wow, that's quite an introduction.
Thank you so much for coming on to The Dangerous Ones, man. And, we've known each other, at least Tiffany and I have known you since about 2018. How long have you known Scott?
Similar. Yeah. I mean, I think we ran into each other first online in 2017, probably, but so it's been a minute. It's been a minute. We're good buddies in the movement for sure.
Pleasure to see you again. I haven't seen you since the White House, I think. And there was a different guy there. I don't think we're welcome.
No, we're not going back there anytime soon unless we're in trouble, man.
And Scott, how have you been, just real quick before we get started, how have you been since the election? How is your sanity? How's your anxiety? How is everything? How are you?
Myself, I'm doing fine. It's on election night. I think I was texting with you, Nick. I can look back at it, but I think I was it was somewhere late at night where I knew the numbers were not in our favor whatsoever on a lot of different fronts. So I had planned on launching a coalition that was going to work to pressure the press to cover Kamala Harris fairly. And that changed into just what we called the Watchdog Coalition, which we started that night. That is my new kind of activism arm. And and so I do my journalistic kind of stuff through Dworkin Report, and then my activism arm is Watchdog Coalition. And the whole idea of that was we had to broaden it because we had to fight against Trump. And I was just like, nobody really planned for that. I did just in case. I was like, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but so that I just dove myself straight into that. And, the next day I was already pushing, me and Matt Gaetz are not best of buddies, not good pals. So I was not ready for him to be an attorney general because I was on that enemies list for sure. So I went ahead and we started pushing against the nominees. We were like, why not? And when Gaetz was out, we started widening that from there. And obviously, they have no morals and no heart and no sense of self, and they don't think about the repercussions that'll happen eventually, I'm sure. I've been doing the other thing and investigative work for so long. I decided to take a slant, and that's changed my mood and a lot of other people's moods online and elsewhere. To just show, instead of just the negative news, show the brighter side of that. And that's our new focus now. But it's tough. It's a daily trudging through the mud, but it's absolutely worth it. The fight must carry on.
Yeah, I love my Substack app, and every morning I wake up and there's a post from the Dworkin Report. Good news for us, bad news for Trump.
Yeah.
It's really great.
I was going to say the movement is a hell of a lot stronger because you're on our side, buddy. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I really quick, and we'll get to our segment here, but I'm with you, man. Having pivoted a little bit from doing what we were doing with 11 films and now doing this podcast, the anxiety level has come down since I'm not searching all day for Trump quotes on online and stuff. And I've definitely got to get into the meditation lifestyle going on. That is my, because I'm turning 50 this year. So this year I must meditate more.
We got some space in here for some meditation.
We
cushions
definitely
and
do
stuff, right? Yeah,
we've got some elbow room finally.
Let's do it, man.
But this next segment we are dubbing the Godfathers of MAGA.
Yep.
And Nick, what are we about to do?
All right. So basically, this all came because last week Mitch McConnell announced that he is retiring from the Senate, finally.
Bye-bye,
Mr. Turtle. And he's retreating into his shell just as the shit is really hitting the fan. Of course, he had a really big part in creating that shit pile. And so I posted on social media saying, sayonara, and this is your fault. And I got a ton of responses from all of you. It blew up because people jumped into the comments and was like, yeah, Mitch, but also, this person. So we're like, okay, well, let's dig into this a little bit on the show and talk about like who really paved the way
for sure
for MAGA to ascend in the United States.
To be what it is now. Yeah.
So that's what this segment's about. We took all your responses, threw in some thoughts of our own, and we created a top 10 list of sort of garbage, right? Garbage humans, Christian nationalists, cowards, and oligarchs who are responsible largely for the ascendancy of MAGA and Trump in America. In other words, if you could go back in time in the DeLorean and George McFly these biffs, then maybe Trump doesn't happen. So that's the context. Yeah, that's the context.
Fantastic. Do we want to just roll right into it? Let's do it. Okay, so who is number 10 on the Godfathers of MAGA list? Who's number 10?
Number 10, TV producer Mark Burnett. Burnett played a significant role in reshaping Donald Trump's public image and contributing to the rise of Trumpism in America by creating The Apprentice in 2004. He very successfully rehabilitated the image of a bankrupt, racist loser, portraying Trump instead as a decisive and successful business leader. Without that rehabilitation, it is hard to imagine Trump rising as a political figure the way that he did in America. So Thank you, Mark Burnett.
I like the pick, and we know. And the other thing about that motherfucker too is he he's got troves and troves of content,
No doubt.
of Trump saying some shit. I don't know if it would matter now. I mean, you might as well get Trump saying all the the people don't fucking care.
Teflon Don,
but
right?
he's definitely deserves a spot on the list. Scott, what do you think?
He's the UK envoy now, so he got a little position out of it. I think it's terrifying just he can paint that kind of picture. I think he's still mad. I'm not sure if y'all are aware or not, but the night that President Obama, when he's president, came on to announce that they had killed bin Laden, it interrupted the middle of Trump's episode of The Apprentice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They cut, you can see him talking to, I think, Nene Leakes or something, and he points over and he's like, well, and then it's like the quick NBC News alert. And he waited a few minutes. I think they were verifying some things or something, and then he came out and made the announcement. But it interrupted that, and Trump thought he was doing that on purpose. So that was one of the first times where he was really furious at Barack Obama. And Mark Burnett obviously was producer of that show, so I'm sure he was not very happy about it as well. But yeah, I think it's a good pick for number 10.
Yeah, it's kind of an inside pick. Like I didn't really have him in my head when we started doing this.
Sure.
But a lot of you online threw out Mark Burnett. So.
And it's a great call. I mean, he deserves to be on the list.
Yep.
Absolutely. Nick, who do we have for number 9?
Number 9, President Gerald Ford. Also kind of an inside pick. Now, you may not think of Gerald Ford as a menacing figure in history. He had a pretty unnoteworthy presidency, but Ford presided over a true sliding doors moment in American democracy when he pardoned Richard Nixon. If Ford makes the right choice and allows Nixon to face full criminal accountability for his actions, the permission structure for the overtly criminal actions of Donald Trump is never created.
Yeah, I like the pick because it all, it shows that whole, well, we want to, let the country move on. No, fuck that. The fucking guy broke the fucking law.
Yeah.
And, this kind of this is how we're at a point now where everybody just believes a president can do whatever he wants.
Right.
That's not what it was supposed to be. And, I wouldn't have thought that to be the pick, right. Gerald Ford, on the list. But now that it's on there, that makes sense to me. Scott, what do you think?
I don't have much to say about the guy. I just know that he thinly veiled his racism, I guess, in some aspects, and then in other rights, he was a total atrocious monster. So
yeah. Right.
Well, definitely can see why people online chose him to be on the list.
Yep.
Who is number 8?
All right, this is a twofer. Number 8, the Koch brothers. Despite having a pretty contentious relationship with Trump himself, Charles and David Koch spent decades and billions building a vast conservative infrastructure of think tanks and advocacy groups focused on deregulation, small government, and data-driven campaigning that created a political environment receptive to Trumpian populism.
Yeah, Scott, your reaction?
Oil spills, anti-worker, anti-immigration, foreclosures on people who can't afford homes, stolen money from people. I mean, the list is endless of the corruption and greed that they have committed upon American people and across the world. They're one of the most evil duos that in our lifetime that'll ever exist, for sure.
Yeah, and I put, the Koch brothers. I put that. I mean, they're right up there for me. They should be for me personally higher on the list because them and Rupert Murdoch and people like that with no money, it's harder to be a bad guy. So guys like the Koch brothers really deserve. I hope there's a special place in hell. You know.
Yeah, and that all of the shit that Elon Musk is doing with Doge and the Doge bags, They are, well, there's only one of them left, but they're both smiling down and really, really enjoying the work of the dismantling of the federal government, because that was a big part of their goal. So
Yeah, well, nailed it.
Nailed it.
Nick, who is number 7?
Number 7, President Ronald Reagan. Coining the slogan, "Make America Great Again," for his 1980 presidential bid, Reagan literally gave rise to MAGA. His famous quote about the 9 most terrifying words being, I'm from the government and I'm here to help," fostered a decades-long distrust in government institutions that laid the foundation for Trumpian populism. And his trickle-down economic policies wet the whistle of the nation's wealth-hoarding elites and current billionaire oligarchs.
Now, we had a little bit of a discussion when we were putting the list together. Should Ronald Reagan be on the list? Yes or no? Some argued yes, some argued no. First of all, Scott, do you think Ronald Reagan should be on the list? And what do you think that he's on the list, and how do you think he contributed?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were really good at the propaganda and selling him as something different than he was. So I think he deserves to be on this list. It may be about the right spot in it. I think that his civil rights stances were abhorrent. I think that he was against the working person, but acted like he was for them. A big lie. Look at what happened to air traffic controllers. He was terrible for the country, but he was that old school Republican where instead of Trump doing big distractions, he would just lie to your face and then do it behind the scenes. So,
yeah,
old school.
Yeah, and the originator of, I believe, of "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
And Donald Trump has always, I've always thought, looked at Ronald Reagan as the template for the the president that got through the killer awesome 80s, and like it was about I think Donald Trump looked at Ronald Reagan as the most Americana president ever, and he was like, that's who I gotta be. And sure enough, he's tried to take that mantle away from Ronald Reagan, probably has in some way, but I don't know why you'd want that, but he took it away. And I love, God, I mean, nothing cracks me up more when he's like, some people are saying I'm better than Ronald Reagan. I mean, some people are saying I'm better than Abraham Lincoln. It's like, shut the fuck up. Okay, in 20 years, this is not going to age well for you, brother. You know what I mean? So what do you think, Nick?
One other thing I'll throw in that Ronald Reagan presided over was the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine in 1987. That's huge in terms of setting the stage for MAGA and for Trump, because it made partisan media explode. Yeah, and that has created such polarization in the country since then. So,
and plus, Ronald Reagan, if I'm not mistaken, the America becoming a corporate entity in a sense, corporatization of America happened quite a bit through Ronald Reagan, and that was just exactly what the Republican Party wanted, and people like Donald Trump benefited from that. So, who is number 6?
All right, number 6 might be somebody that people know a little bit less than some of the other people on the list, but that doesn't mean he doesn't belong here. Number 6, Leonard Leo.
Leonard Leo.
The incredible impact of the Federalist Society on American politics can't be understated, and Leo is the chief architect. By creating a grooming pipeline for young lawyers who share his perverted view of the Constitution, Leo is the godfather of disastrous judicial decisions like Citizens United, the decimation of the Voting Rights Act, and the recent presidential immunity ruling that have hobbled our democracy and paved the way for an unaccountable executive branch and runaway presidential power.
I was not aware of who this man, I mean, the name did not ring a bell when I read it. Obviously, the Federalist Society, of course, but I was not aware of his name. But first class piece of shit right there. Scott, what are your thoughts?
He's one of the dark money kings out there, and knows how to bundle it on the sly without fingerprints on anybody else. And, Republicans have been covering him for years, and look at the Supreme Court now. look at the presidency, look at the different things that he's fought for in regards to gerrymandering.
Yep.
It's all those long games.
Yep.
Like the Koch brothers did the same thing, but he's really focused in on the long game. Like what's going to benefit us in 20 years from now? And that's, get a young person on the Supreme Court, doesn't matter if they're qualified or not, Kavanaugh. Get somebody who's going to be there for, 30, 40 years that's going to benefit us. It's sort of like, the guy that was behind in that movie, The Pelican Brief. He seems like that individual funder on the outside.
Right.
Dirty politics, some of the dirtiest of all. And obviously, Citizens United is a travesty that's led to Trump and some other real horrible monsters in this country.
And Scott, can I ask you? Let me ask you your opinion, because I mean, okay, but he was definitely success. I mean, the Federalist Society have been successful at what they do. They create a blueprint for how, Republicans and conservative politicians, this is what we're going for, guys. We're going for this, and that morphed into later down the line. Now we have Project 2025, and that was the new blueprint. I'm curious on the good side of the coin, good guys on the left or whatever. How come we don't do something for the good guys? Say, hey, and there could be very complex reasons on why we don't do that. But like, why isn't there something like that for the good guys? A group of people going out there saying, guys, this is a good blueprint for us moving forward. Some would argue, yeah, it's called the Democratic Party, but I would argue, I don't know if that's not working at the moment. But anyways, how come we don't have that on our side?
I'd say more rich people are Republicans or supportive of Republican politics than they are of Democratic politics. There are a lot of rich people that help fund the Democratic Party, but it's not even close to the amount of dark money as involved in Republican politics. Also, Democrats can have a problem of bringing a book to a Twitter war, and so they get worried about the individual line items instead of the bigger picture, like, well, I disagree with this person on this one specific smaller set of values. And so I'm going to go all against them, and then I'm going to not support them at all. And that leads to somebody like Trump. You know what I mean? Like we need to adjust what our expectations are.
Yeah, I agree. And also it's like they were really good. And so when we talk about, the Godfathers of the MAGA party, how did we get here? And we look at the Federalist Society and stuff, what they were brilliant was selling people on the most important thing that's going on that Democrats are doing is killing babies. They want gay people everywhere, and they want immigrants to take your jobs. Yep. When none of those are your biggest problems in your everyday life, right? But don't worry about our tax cuts over here. That's boring stuff. That'll make you yawn. Don't worry, we're gonna get you a tax cut. Don't worry, you're gonna get your tax cut. And they're like, yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about these darn abortions out there. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about abortion. He doesn't give a fuck about abortion. No. He doesn't care, dude. Back in the 1980s and 90s. He didn't give a fuck what the Federalist Society was doing. You know what I mean? He didn't care about any of that stuff. Donald Trump, still to this day, I do not believe in his heart, gives a one iota shit fuck about what the Federalist Society wants. Right? I mean, he's like, whatever works to get me what I want. So, but they are extremely crucial in making what is today's MAGA party.
Yes,
excuse my rant.
They were no, you nailed it. Yeah, no, I mean Leonard Leo, the long game. That's sort of the summary with him. Like that, the Federalist Society has played the long game. They have created a pipeline of lawyers who, it used to be that I actually spoke to Dr. Casey Dominguez, who's a political scientist from University of San Diego about Leonard Leo, and she made the point that, it used to be that lawyers would follow the law because they wanted to be respected by their peers to a certain extent, right? And what the Federalist Society has done is created a cohort, a whole section of the law that is interpreting the Constitution in a different way than it had been interpreted in the past, and it gives a permission structure for all of these people to turn the judiciary in a completely different direction. So Anyway, thanks, Leonard Leo.
Yeah, well, they deserve to be he deserves to be on the
Yeah.
list, and so does the Federal Society
Yep.
as a whole. Nick, who now we are? We're at number 5. We're halfway through the list, ladies and gentlemen. Number 5. Who is it, Nick?
Number 5 is Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin.
The Russian president and revenge-fueled former KGB agent has been deploying active measures to topple America for decades, and it's working. Often portrayed as puppet master to Donald Trump, Putin has invested billions to influence the American political rights populist movement. He has interfered in our elections and undermined trust in Western democratic institutions. Scott, you know this guy. What's your take?
Asking the expert here.
He's one of the richest people in the world. He is one of the only few people that rival Elon in regards to wealth. Hundreds of billions of dollars is estimated to be in his accounts and properties and then everything throughout the world. He's extremely powerful, obviously, a dictator. He started the war in Ukraine. He invaded Ukraine. Just to be clear for any doubters about that, that's a fact and it's not negotiable. He is a murderer, a war criminal, and he is one of the most evil monsters that's ever walked the planet. I am not a fan of this. I don't know exactly. You can say dictator, but I'm not sure if that's strong enough of a word. I'm not sure if there is a word, but it's Putin. This is not our friend. This is a person who said that they could destroy America in 30 minutes or less and would smile doing it at a dinner table. This is a person who's put bounties on our soldiers' heads in Afghanistan. This is a person who has threatened us with war and other things, where he's tried to assassinate allies and leaders of allies and countries across the world. And he's done it with some as well. And he's used chemical weapons, apparently, according to multiple reports, just to be careful, because he does have American lawyers who are willing to, sue for him.
Yeah.
So he uses every kind of way to get to people. And his threats against me when I was investigating him and Donald Trump and the business ties. This was before any collusion, before Mueller, before anything like that. I was looking into his business ties, and I would report it on MSNBC and elsewhere. And I was talking about, okay, so early 80s, we're looking at, his business was struggling, or he'd buy a piece of artwork that was overpriced. And then there's money in the background where over 100 million in property was bought in apartments and elsewhere from Russians of Trump's properties. He had Russian mobsters running gambling rings inside of Trump Tower, which was busted by the FBI. He started working with the FBI in the 80s through one of his casinos, and that's Trump working with the FBI, basically serving as an informant. And we're talking about decades of business done in Russia. We've shown photos of his kids in Russia looking at property, and it's so obviously a setup for them. But we were able to get our hands on that. And so we're looking at we didn't think anything more of it. But there's a lot of different ways that he can get to him. Again, it's another situation where Trump wanted a lot from Vladimir Putin. Whether or not he's gotten that, we just aren't. I'm not able as an individual to prove that, because of X, Y, Z. But he has absolutely benefited from his relationship with Putin for years, and Putin has benefited absolutely from their relationship as well. They don't need to really talk to each other like that. They have Boris Epstein in his White House, who used to work in Moscow, who was, I believe, born in Russia. You don't need to pick up the phone and talk to each other all the time. This is one of the biggest evil combinations of people that I've ever seen. So I think that he belongs on the list. Whether or not he's higher or not, he's definitely at the top in my mind. And getting Trump into office, obviously in 2016,
Yeah.
using social media as a weapon
Yeah.
against American public, threatening using bots and networks that people were not aware of, dangers to them, getting threats from random accounts saying, if you keep on talking about Hillary, like I'm coming after you, things like that, organizing events that don't exist with groups that don't
Yep.
exist,
Yep.
and spending a ton of money in social media, letting that happen, and us just not being aware of it, interfering in our election, which I believe led to the election of Donald Trump. So he has a huge role in all of this. And he did it again in 2018. He did it again in 2020. He did it again in 2022. And he did it again in 2024. And you bet your ass he's going to do it again in 2026, which is Putin will interfere in our elections. To what extent? I'm sure it'll be more than just bomb threats. It'll probably be more extensive than that. And it'll be against Democrats and it'll be in support of Republicans.
Yep.
I mean, folks, that's why we're lucky enough to have Scott Dworkin on this show.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add to that. Yep. That was exactly, Jesus Christ. And boy, Vladimir Putin, he just literally, he took advantage of, we have to follow the rules, quote unquote. He don't. And he went, watch this, guys.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Who is number 4, Nick?
Number 4 is media mogul Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch.
Fox News has played a major role in brainwashing millions of Americans by amplifying fact-free conservative narratives and critiques of liberal policies, creating fertile ground for Trump's populist message. Now a runaway train, Fox is nothing more than a mouthpiece for Trumpism and the MAGA agenda.
Let me just say this. We had Wiley Nickel on, former Rep. Wiley Nickel on a few weeks ago, and I was telling him one of the most disgusting things that an American can do is stopping somebody to vote. We were talking about gerrymandering. Yeah. And I think, to me personally, that's one of the things that inside me I think they should take those people out and flog them, is what I think. That's what I said to him too. And this is no different. It's stopping people from voting, and also telling lies on air that are not true. And then somebody like Rupert Murdoch, who is purposely funding that all across the world, not just in America, is probably really right up there with one of the most disgusting human beings on earth to me. Scott, your thoughts?
He's linked to Putin, of course. Most of these people are. It really is a small world for them. He seems kind of poor in the billionaire world now compared to Musk. I'm sure he has hidden assets. I would allegedly, we'll say, just because your show is widespread now. I think that it's evil to just twist the truth and lie at a constant for financial benefit at a level where it kills people. COVID. Yeah. Think about that. Yeah. Think about, there's friends of mine whose dads died because they were listening to Fox News, watching Fox News, and masks don't work, things like that. The vaccine is a hoax. And they would air these things at a constant, and it was propaganda, and it absolutely killed people. It ended up hurting people, led to protests outside of hospitals, led to the spread of the disease where people were having, they were having the hugging sessions outside. Yeah. Like giving, and then of course, like one of the guys who was hugging ended up dying of COVID. These are things, but you have some good that comes from it where, champions like Grant Stern pushes me to form a group where people are sewing masks at home, but you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't let the president of the United States not send 400 million masks to every American family, and all he had to do was wear it, but he had no other way to divide us. And so Fox should have never carried that message, but they did, and they followed his orders, or I think they may work in tandem more than we think. Obviously, him and Hannity are in cahoots constantly. Tucker and
Right.
him used to be as well. But it's just like there's no pushback. It's pathetic. It's not real journalism. It's not news. And they've said so in court cases
Yep.
that they're entertainment and they're not news. And I
Yep.
think that it's dangerous. And this sort of quote unquote entertainment should be banned in America, and just like it is in other countries across the world.
Here, here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, he's just right up there as one of the most, and knowingly doing that,
Yes.
knowingly doing it,
Yeah.
it just makes you, I'm sorry, it makes you evil. And he's right. Killed. Lots and lots of people. I got lots and lots of friends who I grew up with. We were in bands together in the old neighborhood, who are brainwashed to this day, and it just breaks my heart. And they block me, and these are people who I love them, and it's just really, really too bad.
Yep.
Nick, we are down to the top 3.
All
Holy
right.
shit! Buckle
Okay.
up. Who is number 3?
All right. Well, coming full circle here. Number 3, Senator Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Sorry, Mitch, you didn't make number 1. What can we say? McConnell has been poisoning American politics for decades by consistently prioritizing short-term political gains and party power over long-term consequences. McConnell has strengthened the MAGA movement within the Republican Party. His denial of Obama's right to appoint a Supreme Court justice in his final year, followed by his about-face treachery in allowing the last-minute appointment of Amy Coney Barrett by Trump in his final year, tells you everything you need to know about Mitch.
Yeah, I think, and Mitch McConnell is like, what drives you crazy too is he was incredibly successful at being, evil, doing doing the bidding. And what he did is he was like, he's kind of he ended all of the gentlemen's agreements, right? He's the senator who said, we're not doing that anymore. Fuck that. We are now, and when you do that, that institution, that is gone for almost ever.
Yeah.
And that helped him be successful at implementing these things. Now he's got all these, his thing was judges, and he succeeded.
Yep.
And boy, and we will be scarred because of what he did for generations and my kids' kids will be scarred for a long, long time for what he did. Scott, your take?
There is a man named James Chow. He's a Chinese billionaire, and his son-in-law is Mitch McConnell. Elaine Chao is McConnell's wife, and I find it interesting how Republicans always attack China and act like it's the biggest threat, and they never look at that one enormous link there and how the Chows have benefited from the Trump administrations in the past, and also I'm sure now as well. So I think he's much more corrupt than people could imagine, because he has access to billions and billions of dollars. It's beyond measure. Marrying an heiress, I'm sure, is not just the power broker move, but again, that capital, and how much did that affect what he was doing?
Right.
And the fact that it just never really caught on. I mean, could you imagine if someone, maybe Chuck Schumer, were married to Elaine Chao, and what Republicans would be doing in regards to that? Whether or not there were corrupt acts, that's something that we'll probably never find out. But I will say is that he's a lot richer and more powerful than people could ever imagine, and that's why I think now he's like, I'll take on Trump in this fake way. But if you think about it, he's really one of the biggest accomplices, just because he acts like he's against him, speaks out for January 6th one time, and then pulls it back, and is one of the guys that muddies the waters. Thank goodness for then Speaker Pelosi. I don't know what she said to McConnell and other Republican leadership to get them to come back on that day.
Yeah.
But whatever she said, it worked. These he's horrible.
Yeah.
And what he's done is unforgivable. And he's one of the biggest accomplices to Trump ever, and that'll never change, and nothing he does will ever change that fact. He'll go down in history as one of the bigger monsters, along with the Koch brothers and Putin and
Yep.
everybody else. He really is absolutely horrible. He just does it in that way, the old school, classic Republican way of like, well, I just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't examined that yet. And you
Yeah.
look at it,
Yeah.
and it's like, you get a briefing every day. You know exactly what was said. You saw the tweet that Trump said, like,
Yeah.
but he does that behind the scenes where he's like, well, we're not going to cut Medicaid, and then he cuts Medicaid in the bill. You know, that's
Right.
what he does. He's a master class in how to be evil, and
Yep.
I think he's rightfully on this list, and I'm assuming as we see the next two that the other two would be more deserving than even him to
We'll
be
see.
top.
I do want to toss in too. Let's not forget that we'd mentioned Gerald Ford and his sliding doors moment in terms of the power of the American presidency and the American president in terms of having sort of leading to the Supreme Court decision around presidential immunity by pardoning Nixon. McConnell had a moment like that too. After January 6th and after the second impeachment, where if he had jumped in and he had voted to convict Trump, he would have been able to probably bring over enough Republicans to get the vote threshold.
Yeah.
And that would have been that's one of those moments, you know, that could have completely changed the course of history. We wouldn't have President Trump right now. So Mitch.
Yeah. Let me just say,
Yeah.
and then we'll finish Mitch out, is and the odd thing about it, as we count down the top 10 Godfathers of MAGA, Mitch McConnell is not looked at as MAGA.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's
Right.
looked at as a rhino, and it's funny because, but yet he's one of the most important people having, because of what he did in creating
Yeah.
the policies that led to MAGA.
Yeah.
But it's so funny how MAGA hates him, right? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just
Yep.
ridiculous. It's so
Yep.
funny. Okay.
Okay.
The list is heating up. We are down to number 2. Nick, who is number 2?
Number 2 is Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh.
You can draw a direct line from the Rush Limbaugh radio show to the rise of Trumpism. Limbaugh's anti-elitist, media-despising, Democrat-bashing style, along with his constant overtures about American exceptionalism and weaponization of racial animus, primed the pump for Trump and the MAGA movement. The reach and influence of Limbaugh in American politics cannot be overstated.
Yeah. Let me just say this really quick. In the 1990s, I had a job where I was driving around all day in a van. I was delivering auto parts for a car dealership. I was a young kid, you know, and it was like 1991 or something like that. And Rush Limbaugh was on the radio, but aside from him, there's like 105 shows on the right now to every one on the left. And back in radio, it's probably way worse than that. I mean, the lopsidedness is just incredible, and Rush Limbaugh is the architect of right radio. And in the 1990s, I remember him. I used to listen to him because I was like, what? I wonder what they think. What do they think? Because even back then, I was a Democrat. I was born a Democrat. My dad's a Democrat. My dad and I would joke about like what this idiot would say on the radio, but you didn't realize back then how much he was going to influence everybody, and it's just. But I absolutely agree that Rush Limbaugh, it should be very, very high on the list. Scott, what do you think?
I mean, he was hideous, and one of the really build up to that new Fox News, more so Newsmax, One America News sort of right-wing network, embracing hate, acting like it was cool, acting like that was power, acting like hate against anybody, any minority whatsoever, hating neighbors, and embracing the kind of own the libs narrative of being a bully is okay. He opened that door for really outward bullying that was just uh, grotesque beyond measure. Just his attacks on different people with so many different layers couldn't be ignored, especially in the LGBTQIA plus community. It was again horrible. He did I think he did the segments back in the day like that had to do with gay community updates, and it was all hate driven around the death of someone who had passed away of AIDS. I believe they were a musician, and that's the music he played in the background. And he thought that it was like a circus sort of clown show. And so this sick and demented, unhinged monster, again, monster, it has no sympathy from this guy ever. He is one of the worst, and he's well deserving of that spot.
And one of the great points, and one of the things that was unique about him at the time was the sort of cult of personality, right? His followers, his listeners were ditto heads.
Yep.
Right. And that really feels very sort of parallel with the MAGA MAGA folks, right? And Trump in particular. Like he kind of followed the blueprint there.
Yeah, he was punk rock to to today's heavy metal or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, he was the early version, Yeah, for sure. I remember too, he used to play this song by an old 80s band called Jackal. He used to play this song called the Lumberjack, and in the song the guy physically plays a chainsaw in the song, and it would be his song that he would use to start a climate change, whatever. Anyways, and he would talk about cutting down all the trees and how he thought it was funny and all this. And I just, I had never, it was almost like Howard Stern in the sense that I had never heard anything quite like that. So like the morbid part of me, in my very early 20s was I would listen to it. I certainly didn't agree with any of it, but I listened to it because I couldn't believe the craziness he was saying. Yeah. I had no idea that throughout the country, there was a whole swath of people agreeing with him. So, boy, I grew up fast. So, okay. Well, we've come down to the very big moment. We've gone through 9 people who have been absolutely instrumental in creating MAGA. Now, this, before you reveal, we know that this will be debated, argued about online and forever in the halls of time on the dangerous ones. But somebody's got to be number one.
Okay.
Nick, who is the number one?
Number one, Speaker Newt Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich!
During his tenure as Speaker of the House in the 1990s, this man destroyed American politics. His brand of anti-establishment populism and declaration of war against Washington elites, including some in his own party, provided a blueprint for both the Tea Party and for Trump's MAGA movement. Gingrich's contract with America represented a hard shift to the right for American politics.
For sure.
Newt
Gingrich. When I think about when things turned dark when I was a kid, I grew up, Jimmy Carter, I loved him, and all that. We went through Reagan. When I think about as a kid into going into my early 20s, when politics started to go dark, Newt Gingrich was the face of that to me. But Scott, what do you think?
Nearly 50 years ago, Newt Gingrich addressed his college Republicans before winning his House election. But he said this: I think one of the great problems we have in the Republican Party is that we don't encourage you to be nasty. We encourage you to be neat, obedient, and loyal and faithful, and all those Boy Scout words. He added Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford. They've done a terrible job, a pathetic job. In my lifetime, I was born in 1943. We have not had a competent national Republican leader, not ever. And I think that sets the stage. That's nearly 50 years ago. And so he always was the clutch pearls kind of guy with no morals himself, obviously, through his history. But he would always I just can't believe like Clinton did. I can't believe can you believe it's the worst thing? And he just would play it so well to the media, and the media would eat it up and play it everywhere. And he was a master at that horrible spread of just not just disinformation, but the clutching of pearls. Republicans like, cannot believe that they did this, and it's act like it's the most offensive thing ever, and people run with it, and that really set a template, obviously, for Trump and MAGA and everything that it stands for. So I think he's up there. I personally, and we can debate this at a time, I put Putin on top. But that's for different reasons. And then I also put the Koch brothers on top. And then I also put all of these other people on top. They're all number one, and they're all awful. So it's a hard list to come by, but that makes sense as a number one, especially because he held elected office and because he's been around for so long. It really has helped cover for Trump, his template that he laid out, like these other Republicans be like, I just don't know what they said, like the defense of them, the cover, how they got these nominations through. A lot of these were all the groundwork of Gingrich. So horrible monster.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. And Nick, any other comments about Newt?
Yeah, no, I mean, just he was sort of the guy who introduced at least in modern American political discourse, sort of like that good versus evil frame to American politics, and really framing conservatives and conservatism as the saviors who are going to come in and save America from the evil liberals. I mean, he really turned politics upside down and made it, at that point, like prior to him, there were kids, listen up. There were Republicans and Democrats in Washington who like worked together to put together legislation to help the American people. And Newt Gingrich, in his speakership, was the beginning of the end of that phase of American politics. Maybe, hopefully someday we can get back to that, but those days are long gone.
We'll see. Well, wow, what an incredible list. We are up against the time a little bit. What a fantastic treat to have Scott Dworkin on the show with us. Let me just say, I know we're going to argue about this list, and we want to hear from you. Give us a call on the People's Hotline. Dial 503-212-4600.
Yeah.
Again, that's 503-212-4600. Let us know what you think. Who do you think should have been at the top of the list? Who did we miss? If calling isn't your thing, you can email us at shout@thedangerousones.com. That's SHOUT @thedangerousones.com. Folks, be sure to check out the Dworkin Report. Chances are you probably already are if you're listening to this podcast. Scott, it has been a true pleasure having you on the show. From the bottom of my heart, and I'm speaking for Tiffany, who wasn't able to make this. She had to run out at the last second, a little emergency. She's so mad right now, too, that she had to miss this because she wanted to be part of this. Yeah. But she had to go do something. But on behalf of Tiffany and myself, and I speak for Nick, too, thank you for being on the show. You're only the second guest that has ever been on the show. We're definitely sending a t-shirt your way. Sir, thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott, man.
Appreciate it. No, thanks for having me on, and keep up the great work. And I'm honored, to be on and be the second guest. It was really great working with Nick, working with you for all these years, and continue to do so now. And with 11 films, I mean, we made some of the best ads that I've ever seen. So I couldn't appreciate you more. Thanks for all you do. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much. We've been fighting together for quite a while, and we'll keep doing it from here on out. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
503-212-4600. Yeah! 503-212-4600. The Dangerous Ones Hotline.
I like it.
Gets you out every time. The Dangerous Ones Hotline. Gets you hot every fucking time.
Gets you hot every fucking time.
Every fucking time.
All right, Tiffany, who is our first caller?
First up is Brent from California, and he called in for Sunday's show for the Mitch McConnell rant.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's from Oakland.
He did. Yeah, he is. So
Yeah.
he called back as a follow-up.
This is Brent in California, and I've got to say, first of all, I'm blind. I've been blind my entire life. So my name is Brent. I'm blind. I'm also baffled, bewildered,
Hi, Brent.
bewitched,
Hi,
bothered,
Brent.
befuddled, bemused, a bunch of bees, whatever you want to say. How the fuck? So I know blind people, disabled people, or I know disabled folks who are in contact with other disabled folks who fucking are right-wing Trump supporters. Just fucking how? How does that make any goddamn sense? You people are voting for the very party that is antithetical to everything you stand for, everything you are, everything you need, everything that would make your life easier. How do you fucking people do it? How can you sit there and sing the praises of people who do not give a flying fuck about you? Just how? Okay, I'm on SSI and food stamps. Thank God, because my rent is expensive where I live in the part of California where I'm at.
Yeah, I bet.
If it weren't for SSI and food stamps, I couldn't pay my rent. I couldn't put food in my stomach. I couldn't make sure I have a phone. I couldn't take care of bills. I couldn't do jack bo diddly shit. And for the first time in my life, I'm worried that those payments, those things that I rely upon to get through every month, and not even comfortably sometimes. Sometimes I barely eke by. I am now worried that people like me and people in worse shape than me are going to be left twisting in the wind because MAGA couldn't care less. They don't give a damn. If you're not able-bodied, rich, white, straight, Christian, hypocristian, bull fucking shit, how can you vote for a party that couldn't care less, obviously couldn't care less, and sing their praises as if they're the greatest thing since sliced bread? Fuck Donald Trump, fuck Shady Vance, fuck Elon Musk, fuck MAGA, fucking Republicans, fuck the spineless members of Congress that sit there and do jack shit. Fuck the Republicans enabling this shit. You can all get fucked up the ass with a pickaxe covered in sulfuric acid. Fuck!
All right, Brett
has
Really articulated it
Yeah.
fucking beautifully.
Wow. I mean, he's got the nicknames right, man.
Yeah,
and
he
all the
does.
way I love it. What was he call it? A hypocristian.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
It was hilarious, but like, that's real shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is how people like live.
Yeah.
And you know, Musk coming after the Social Security Administration, shutting down offices all over the country.
I mean,
that's just gonna make life harder for people who rely on services.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's terrible.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
and the impact on individuals.
Yeah.
like, is real.
Yeah,
And you can hear it in Brent's voice.
And I would
Sure
say
can.
that we have been getting multiple calls about people concerned about their Social Security not coming through.
Yep.
And just normal stuff, normal governmental things, not where they're, it's breaking.
Yeah.
The
That's
it
Yeah.
has
what they're trying to
begun.
do.
Yeah.
Yep.
it's like that. It's like in a tsunami when the water starts pulling away from the beach and you're like, wait a minute, this feels weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Listen-
This is the first wave of shit that's about to hit.
If you or somebody you know is affected by what is going on with Doge, like, he was shutting down the government, I mean, basically crippling the government, and please call in to the People's Hotline, 503-212-4600, and tell us about it. We have multiple pieces of content coming out this week on vertical platforms and wide platforms. Please check those out, because there are some real hardcore stories coming out. And I was also going to say, too, one of the crazy things is it's like, obviously Brent shared that he was blind, and he was like, I don't know how people, I think he said, basically in my condition could vote for this guy, or whatever. And it's so crazy to think that the Republican Party signed the Disabilities Act. Yeah. Remember back in the day, they were the guys who signed the Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
The first Bush. And look where they are now. Look where we are now and what they've become. So it's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
And it's all, the calls that we've been getting, they're everyone's stories. Everyone is calling. And so that's kind of the theme of today, is just people's stories about what the hell is going on.
And it's really, really important that you guys keep sharing these.
Yeah.
Call our hotline for sure. Send us emails, like Jim said, but also just share on social media. Just get these stories out there, because it's all going to be like all in theory until people start hearing these things.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's all in theory. We have this is a little, but we have this saying called tits or get fo.
Yeah.
Which means show it or get the fuck out.
Yep.
And Tiff and I have been saying that phrase for a lot of since we've been together. Tits or get fo.
Yeah, it's real. This shit's real now.
Meaning either people got to see it or they don't believe it really happened.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
You got to show it. You got to share it. You have to tell people, because it's otherwise, like you said, it's just in theory. It's just
they're lying.
I heard.
Oh, they're just streamlining things.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like streamlining and fucking people over.
It's just liberal lies.
Yeah.
It's just like
fucking
everything.
people over, I think, is like their mission statement.
That is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to go into this whole thing right now, but it's like these lies and stuff, it's liberal lies, they'll say things like that. Coming from the guy who's literally right now trying to tell us that Ukraine started the war.
Dude.
Right.
What the fuck?
I mean, I guess we'll save that for like another show, but I'm telling you, folks,
it's like, do you know how the internet works? It's like that generation. Your fish is not this big, dude.
Yeah.
We can see you.
We know that it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, and then they're sending out the Republican surrogates to go out and spread that lie more.
Right.
So anyways, that's a whole nother subject. But Tiffany, who do we got next? And we're going to cut it a little short, because I know that the Dworkin thing kind of ran, it was a little longer. So we got probably time for one more.
One more. Okay. We're going to take Susan, because Susan, she's been a fan of 11 Films and Demcast for a really long time. And she's really, yeah.
Oh, I love Susan. Okay.
I do too. And she's really active on social media and really brings a lot of attention to healthcare and women's rights. And she's working her ass off out there. So this is Susan's story.
Oh, good.
Hey guys, first of all, I want to say that I so appreciate you. This is Susan Perry at Perry for Health on Twitter and Blue Sky. This is such a clusterfuck. My husband is retired postal worker. His retirement is in OPM, which Musk and his goonies have already gone after. He has all our bank account information. My son has cystic fibrosis and is on SSDI, disability, and Medicare and Medicaid. All our lives are in danger. My son is on a medication, the same medication that Russell Voigt's daughter is on, and he wants to tear apart NIH, who actually came up with the studies for this medication. I'm just livid beyond belief.
Wow. Thank
Love you, Susan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love you, Susan.
We love you, Susan. Thank you so much for that call. My goodness. Heartbreaking.
That's it
Heartbreaking.
right there.
I mean, just the
Yeah.
fear alone, you have to, all of that you're living with.
Yeah.
And now you got to deal with the stress and the fear of what the hell might even happen to the measly shit you're getting that, like Brent says, is barely covering the bills as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
I mean, there are, and Susan, thank you so much for stepping up and sharing
Yeah.
that story. And like, we know that there are millions of other people who are similarly concerned and have similar sort of issues pertaining to what the Musk and the Doge are trying to do, and cutting off, screwing with people's pensions and retirements, and cutting off funding for NIH. And
Come
I mean,
on.
like,
It's criminal.
I'm feeling what Susan's feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best I can tell folks,
Yeah.
I can tell folks is again, we probably sound a little bit like a broken record, but keep calling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, if you don't call this show, call a different show. I don't care. Keep
Yeah.
calling, keep letting people know what's going on out there. Because the more of us that do it, the more it becomes mainstream.
Yeah.
And the more that people who maybe don't believe that that's actually happening
Yeah.
start to go like, oh, but I saw the other day this guy, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
sounds like it.
Like,
It's slowly but surely we will creep in and we will start to, but
we have nothing to gain
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
sharing each other's stories except peace of mind that at least we're not alone with
Yeah.
this attack on us, because that's what it feels like. And the shock and the cruelty is the point. And they want you scared and they want you backed into a corner because that's how you submit to doing whatever the fuck it is they're going to ask us to do.
Yeah. I called my dad last night and because we were listening to some of the calls.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, are you because he's on SSI? And I said, have you had any troubles logging in? He goes, not yet. He goes, but I'm keeping my eye out,
Mhm.
And it's scary. I'm sorry. I'm actually having a hard time breathing because I might as well just, I take inhalers. You know what I mean? If something were to happen to the ACA, that would be very difficult for me to get these inhalers. I take 2 different kinds. Excuse me while I do it.
Yeah.
And if they were to take away the ACA, I'd be in big trouble. I also have to have a surgery, and I'm praying that they don't take it away before I have to have my surgery done. Listen, folks, if you're listening to this show, we are you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There were
and
times-
it's scary. Go
There
ahead,
were
sweetheart.
times before the ACA that you were even eligible for it that
Yeah.
we couldn't eat and have medication at the same time.
That's dead true. Yeah.
So
It makes me really upset because there was times it's like one of my inhalers was about $400, which it might as well have been $1 million.
Yeah.
And I needed that every month, you know what I mean? And I needed it every day
yeah,
to breathe,
Right.
So, terrible stuff.
it's just and just watching you go through that, like as your family, there would be mornings I'd wake up and he's gone. And I look at my phone, he's like, oh, I was having a hard time breathing last night. I went to the emergency room. Like,
yeah, I didn't want to wake her up, so I would just go to
Right.
the emergency room and
because I got to get the kids to school in the
Yeah.
morning. It's just like, fuck, this is,
it's just
And this
terrible.
is life in America.
yeah,
With the ACA,
Right.
with protections. And
Yeah.
the road that we're on is stripping down those protections.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and that's just, that's going to lead to people dying
yeah.
and not being able to, having to make that choice
Yeah.
between food and medicine.
Yeah.
That's exactly
because
right.
an inhaler is not something you can skip. It's not,
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
can
know.
skip my
Yeah.
dosage today. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, pretty scary stuff when you can't breathe, and that's just one issue. Other people
Right.
have very, very serious issues. So, listen, keep sending in those stories, and again, please call the hotline. Please leave messages. Again, it's free. You can remain anonymous,
And we are going to try and come up with different ways to get these calls out, because obviously, we can't we can only go through so many on the show.
Yep. We did add the Sunday show.
We added the
Yep.
Sunday show, and we'll continue doing that. But we have a lot more of you who are calling in.
Yep.
I mean,
who,
a lot.
who we can't get to, and so we're thinking strategically about how we can get more of this out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just keep calling.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can't thank everybody enough for your kind words in the comments, and just all of your guys' support has really helped us keep moving. And I will say this, that if you want to help support this show, please go to Substack and you can become a paid subscriber for $6 a month. Please go to tealandorangereport.com. That's tealandorangereport.com. And that takes you to our Substack. You can subscribe for $6 a month. And do it now because starting in March, we're going to go to its normal price. So thank you so much. What a great show.
Great show.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Scott Dworkin, for joining us.
Dworkin, please check out the Dworkin Report. Chances are you probably already do. He's just fantastic, as you just heard.
I'm so bummed I missed him. I really love Scott.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Thanks for all the hard work you did through 2020 and everything you've been doing, dude. You're out there kicking ass.
Oh, yeah, man.
And just thank you, really.
We're a lot stronger with him on our side.
I'm glad he's on our side.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, folks, thank you so much. We will see you Sunday for the People's Hotline show. And until then, have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
The shots been fired, but the war